initially, we're playing the make me run game. It's just a lot of the dog makes a good choice and they're reinforced by motion. But what do you do when you're not running laps constantly, right? Because there's going to be times you need the dog to pay attention, or after you feed them, so you reward them for an exercise, you feed them, and if something immediately doesn't happen, they go and find a party somewhere else, sometimes in the dirt, right? So they start looking for food somewhere else. So we're starting to build the anticipation of reward, and this becomes a personal play game as well. So it becomes a way that you can put yourself into the equation. So you're less of a Pez dispenser, right? And there's more engagement between you and the dog. Okay, so I'll show you kind of how I would do it with food, and then also how I would do it with toys, because you can choose the reinforcer that is going to make more sense for your dog today. Right? So if your dog plays better at home, this is a major piece on my toy play, right? So I often will use this in any kind of toy engagement that I have. So I'll grab a toy so you can see what I would do there. You're welcome, you did amazing. Let's not look at your All right, so the idea here, so if we're playing with a toy, we're going to balance out quick motion and slow motion. The slow motion is the important part because the longer you can do the slow piece, the more the dog is going to be in that anticipation state. Okay, so initially if I'm playing with the dog, first of all, before I start any game with my dog, whether it's food, training, toy, whatever, I'm going to tense up first. So I'm going to freeze, I'm going to tense up, then I'm going to move. Okay, and that just creates that excitement level, so it lets the dog know we're going from like passive to actually doing things. So body language always comes before reinforcement. Always, 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 no matter what you're doing. In the household, anything that my dog finds exciting, because you can actually hijack the things that they already think are exciting, put it on you first. So a lot of dogs have triggers on, like, I don't know, we're touching the leash, and that means we're going outside for a walk, or we touch the door, and that means excitement. Or we get our shoes.
The freezer drawer.
The freezer drawer.
Where the bones are.
Yes. So freezer drawer. So if it's something the dog is already excited by, you can actually start to add anticipation to this with the long-term thought process that I need something I can use inside the agility room. Right? So I need to be able to keep the dog's focus on me and that I become more exciting than whatever the thing is. So I want the dog to cue off of me that something exciting is about to happen, not the freezer or not the shoes or the leash or whatever it is. So instead, we have this moment that we can actually start to capture. In this case, it's going to be training, right? So it's going to be the toy or the food. So I'm going to tense up. This also helps you with concealing whatever it is. So food or toy in the pocket. So I'm actually going to tense up. I'm going to make eye contact with the dog. I'm going to make the motion of going into my pocket. And then ideally, I'm going to move. Then I'm going to produce the toy. Okay, so the toy comes out last, or the food comes out last. So I tense up, I make eye contact with the dog. This would not be in my hand, so let's say I was even doing food, right? So I tense up, I add anticipation with the dog now looks at me. I'm going to put my hand in my pocket slow, always slow. I pull out and I move quick. Okay? Because now, once the dog's going, whoa, I got attention, and you'll see them zone in very quickly, right? So they'll zone in very quickly. Now you can do that for longer. Slow it down. And then go quick. So the quick is kind of the end of the game. The anticipation, you start stretching for longer periods of time. And what you do then is that there's a longer period between the dogs showing it or you showing anticipation and the dog actually getting rewarded. So then once you do something and you reward the dog, you go around the count, I reward the dog, I'm going to go into anticipation, not into luring. This is how you get off of the, they go around something or they do a behavior, you feed them and immediately you're like, cookie, 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 cookie. Right? We start to create that personal game. So the dog goes around, I reward the dog, and then once we've built this, all you have to do is anything slow motion is going to tweak them up a little bit. Right? So slow motion kind of gets that static behavior. I can also do slow motion with the toy. Yes. And when I want them to get it, I'm going to move quickly. Same thing with the food. Food goes down slow. Slow equals slow. Fast equals fast for the dog. So I go slow, the dog kind of sticks where they are. Yes. And then any kind of slow motion that you do creates stillness in the dog, right? Slow anticipation, and then that helps hold the gap in between. When we watch something like a start line, we want the dog to anticipate going forward but not actually move. So that's where it's built from. If you have a dog who wants to move and they're really in that not sticky, up and bounce bouncing thing, they'll tend to do the hot potato thing with their feet. They move around a lot. We'll talk about that a lot in the Start Line workshop. And if you have a dog who's impulsive and they always go, right, then it's very difficult to get any kind of static behaviors from those dogs. If you watch how they move, they're always like animated. So we actually start to create a little bit of stockiness and then movement. Pretty much all dogs in the right scenario will stalk something, right? So we're pretty much teaching it as anticipation so that we can create it when we need stillness, and we're teaching quick motion to get quick motion from the dog, right? So if there's too sticky, all you have to do is move quicker and you can get more animation from them. For some of the dogs that get so stuck, we want less. But at the same time, we can use anticipation as a very powerful tool to get stillness in high arousal. So if I know that my dog is going to be like a really high drive dog, I actually do a little bit more of the stickiness stuff, like the anticipation and slow motion, because I need to be able to get those dogs when they're high to stay still, right? And they don't tend to do that. They tend to be swinging all over the place, right? So Rab should be one I do quite a bit with that, because when she gets excited, she bounces, right? So she gets excited and she's just like sheltered in the pinball machine, which makes any kind of static behavior really challenging. So the more I end up doing kind of slow, stocky things, the more she zones into stillness, and then she can get released with high motion. If you're doing toy switching, sometimes it's actually better than doing the, they've got one toy and you're like moving this one around a lot. I actually find with Rab, the way that I got the toy switch was a big adventure. It was a very, very big challenge. I have a video of that I'm editing at the moment of our toy switching failures. And the more I moved it, the more she would just keep the one she had and just bounce around trying to chase the other one. So I had to actually go into slow motion until she was like kind of zoning in like this. Then I moved it quick and she would drop one to get the other. But if I just kept moving it, she would just keep bouncing around me in a circle. And she's like, this is great, this is great. We played it for like probably 10 minutes and she had no intention of ever dropping the toy. And I was like, well, this is not working at all. Whereas with some of my other more motion sensitive dogs, they would just like drop one to chase the other one, but she wouldn't. So if you're struggling with the toy switch, try slow to try and get the stalking. And you can even try that with one toy initially just to get them the idea of it, where they don't have one yet and you go slow, so you bring it out slowly. And if they look at it, you kind of twitch it. And if they don't move, you just go slow again and twitch it. And as soon as they start running, then you can go into the movement and the chase games. Right? If you're doing food, it's the same thing. I would just pull up food, go slow, right? They zone in on it, and I say yes, and I move it. So I'm creating the anticipation and then creating more of it on me. So I move slow, and me moving slow gets the dog kind of into that stalking mode, and then I move quick, which gets the quick motion. Is that making sense to everybody? So then all you have to do in order to bridge the gap between one and the other is just tense up like this. And as soon as you tense up like this, their attention's on you, and then everything after you do that just needs to be a little bit slower. When you want the dog to actually come to you and do something, move quick, you've got instant energy transitions. All right, so we will give that a try.